Hi, Andrew. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm well. Alicia, it's already tomorrow here because I'm in Australia. So 5:30 a.m. here.
Whoa, you are living in the future. Wow.
That's right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. Like I mentioned, I hope to come visit Australia very, very soon, maybe in the future, because I can't wait to
Well,
visit
it's
those
it's
beautiful places.
please do. It's very different, and our visitors love it.
I can tell. I can tell. I love that. Okay, Andrew. I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. All right, firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking, because I believe in order to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. And you see, Andrew, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. And you see, the second reason why I'm excited to have Andrew on the show is for the sake of the listeners. Andrew, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We have lots of it everywhere. So these folks trust me for quality information. That's why I was so excited when I came across your profile because I believe I'm definitely going to get a lot of thanks after our conversation. Thank you for bringing Andrew on, man. Did great. I'm so sure. So let us get started with your introduction, Andrew. Talk to us about your personal and your professional journey, how you got here. And afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Andrew, over to you.
Thank you, Alicia. Well, when I was about 25, I made a shocking discovery. I discovered that the happiest people I knew had bigger problems than me, and suddenly I had no excuse for not being happier. And that started me on a journey of reading books and attending workshops and seminars. I was going anywhere I could go to try to find out how is it that happy people think and how can I think more like them. And over the course of 3 or 4 years, I began to do better. And eventually, I thought some of these things that I've discovered that I could be doing better, and some of the things I've learned about happiness, maybe I can put them in a book. And so that information became my first book. Now, I was an artist and a cartoonist, and I like simple books. So my first book was Being Happy, and it was written in simple language, and it had maybe 60, 70 cartoons in it. And after a bit of a struggle to find a publisher, I found a publisher in Singapore. And to cut a long story short, that book, Being Happy, went right around the world and has now sold over 3 million copies. That was the first of 12 books, and I've written a series of books about topics related to happiness. I wrote one for teenagers, Being a Happy Teen, because teenagers were reading my books, but they wanted a book that talked about their problems and their challenges. Follow Your Heart was a book about finding meaning and purpose in our life and work. Happiness in Hard Times, I wrote during the global financial crisis. And How Life Works was a bit of a journey into why it is that happy people seem to be more successful and how we can be more like them. And my latest book, Bouncing Back, which you have, Alicia, is a book about how we rebound from disappointment and disaster. So all of my books are in very simple language. They are all cartoon illustrated because, here's the funny thing. People, most people are very comfortable in reading magazines, and the majority of people don't even pick up books. So if we can have a book that is a bit more friendly, that feels a bit more like a magazine. We've got a little bit of white space, we've got simple language, and we've got a cartoon on almost every other page. That's a lot more fun to read, and it's easier to remember the message. So that's my journey as an author in a nutshell.
Amazing. I love that. And you see, you're right. Your book, cartoon illustrated, because while I was reading it, the cartoons, they kept me um, through the pages. I just don't want to stop reading because the cartoons, they kept making me feel like, I love this, I love this, I love this. So I got that. Okay. And you mentioned some very important stuffs. You studied why those folks were happy. And that's a very, very inspiring thing. And what I learned from your journey is ensure that in order to be like, or in order to have something that you don't have, that some other people have, like happiness, study what makes them happy and study how they think. That's one of the things I learned from your story, from your journey. And the second part is now you've gotten a solution and you are so empathetic that some other people could also be in this situation of not being happy. Then you turned your solution into a book and you published it, and now it has impacted millions of people. That's amazing. And what I learned from that part is do not keep things to yourself. Something that you know can benefit other people, put it out there so that they can also um, benefit from it. And that's inspiring. I love that. I love that. Okay, so shall we get started with the questions, Andrew?
Mm,
Okay, now I'm going to start from this part. You said you sought after how happy people think, and you became like okay, so I want you to talk to us about how does happy people think and how can we also be happy people? Can you talk about that?
yeah, great question. So the first thing that happy people do is they make a decision. Happiness is not an accident. Happiness is much more like a decision that we say, this is my day. Today is my day, and I'm going to be happy just today. You know, when I was 25, the 19th of October, 1983, I decided that I'm going to be happy than I've been up until now. It was a conscious decision. And I never forget that because I found that from that day, my life was better. It wasn't perfect, but it was the day on which I started saying to myself, what is one good thing about my situation right now? What is one thing that I have to be grateful for today? What is one good thing about my job? What is one thing that I love about my parents? Always asking myself, what am I grateful for? What am I happy for? What is good about this? And that is the habit of happy people. Whereas unhappy people, when things go wrong, they say, why does everything happen to me? Happy people ask themselves different questions. And some of the things that we can do as happy people, we can, for example, decide to stop complaining. Here's the interesting thing about complaining. We all know that we talk about what we think about. If you think about food, you talk about food. But the reverse is also true. If you talk about something, then you end up thinking more and more about it. And so the more that you complain about your boss or the weather or where you live, then the more you think about it and the more miserable you are. So what we talk about affects our happiness, and we can perhaps more easily make a choice to change what we talk about than we can change what we think about. But the two are very much connected.
What we talk about affect our happiness. I got that. Amazing. Amazing.
Yep.
I got that. You know, to buttress your point, there was a time when a friend of mine, he asked me a question. He said, I just heard about what happened to you. Then My expectation of you is to find you worrying and complaining and looking all sad and angry. But how come you are lively, happy, not complaining? As a matter of fact, my wife was telling me when something happened and just of recently, and it was terrible. Then here I am, I was just laughing. And she'd be like, Why would you be laughing in this kind of situation?" Then I explained, I said, I feel like that's what I need to do because I'm just so careful the words I say, just to buttress what you said, that what we say affect our happiness. I believe if I'm all there complaining, the situation will only get worse. And I wouldn't even get a solution to come out of it. So I believe my words are so important and I have to be careful the words I speak and how I think. So I got your point, Andrew. That was a great one. Okay, let us talk about gratitude. All right. What is gratitude and how important is gratitude in our day to day activity or day to day lives? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, here's the wonderful thing about gratitude. You can't be grateful and angry at the same time. You can't be grateful and miserable at the same time, or you can't be grateful and resentful at the same time. Try it. You just can't do it. So the more that we say, what do I love about this? And gratitude comes from the questions that we ask ourselves. And our happiness comes from the questions that we ask ourselves. What's good about this? Even when things go wrong, you're stuck in traffic, someone lets you down, you don't get a job that you thought was going to be yours. You say to yourself, what's good about this? What is something that I'm learning from this? How is this making me a stronger person? How is this setting me up for success in the future? So, gratitude comes very much from the questions that we ask ourselves. What's one what's one thing that makes me happy about waking up today? What is one thing that I have to be grateful for about waking up in this bed in this town? What is one thing that I'm looking forward to? And so gratitude is a result of the questions that we're asking ourselves, and it's a conscious thing, but it becomes a habit. I, I did a radio interview in Kuala Lumpur like years ago, and I was talking. The host was a lady, Sarah, and she said, I used to always be like irritated and upset, and I wasn't very happy. And she said, I had this boyfriend. My boyfriend used to work with refugees and help them to acclimatize and get used to living in a new country. So she said he was always up and happy, and he'd always look on the bright side. And she said, I found this really irritating. And if I was stuck in traffic, he would say, what's one good thing about being stuck in traffic? If I had to get up early and work on a weekend, he'd say, what's one good thing about working on a weekend? And she said, it used to irritate me, but the more that I was around him, the more that I began to think like him. And now this is the point to this story. She said to me, now that I'm so much happier, I can't believe how lucky I get. So the interesting thing about being happy is that when we're happy, people want to be around us. Happy people want to be around us. When we're happy, our brain works better. We solve problems 20% faster. Happy doctors diagnose illnesses 30% more accurately. When we're happy, we notice opportunities. When we're happy, we're healthier, we have more energy, and we somehow attract opportunities and people like a magnet. So we say, what is the power of gratitude? Gratitude changes our mindset. We become happier people that others want to be around. And then ultimately that changes the whole trajectory of our life.
Hmm, I got that. I got that. That was well explained, and it synced well with the example that you used. I got that. Okay, I started reading your book, your latest book, Bouncing Back, and I must confess that is a very powerful, interesting, and inspiring book, even though I'm still at the first pages. But I found it really interesting and really inspiring. So, why did you write the book? And how did you come up with the title? And the title is Bouncing Back. And how can we bounce back? Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. Everyone is bouncing back from something. Perhaps we're bouncing back from eating too much or spending too much, or bouncing back from a disappointment where we didn't get employed in a company that we thought we'd get employed, or maybe we're bouncing back from losing a loved one. We're all bouncing back from something. So I began to ask myself, these resilient people that I know and admire, and I've come across some extraordinary people over the course of my life. What is it that they have in common? What do resilient people do? How do they think? And I came across 7 things that resilient people do, and that is the framework for bouncing back. It's not, Alicia, that you have to do them in any particular order. You don't have to do them all at once. But if you do one of them, then you'll be happier and more resilient. So what is it that resilient people do? Number one is whatever's happening in their life, even if it's not something that they want, they say, "What am I learning from this?" I'm sick. I've got an illness. What am I learning? Maybe I'm learning patience. Maybe I'm learning empathy. So I'm becoming a better person. So we say there's a reason for whatever I'm going through, or even if there isn't a reason, what can I learn from this? There's a cartoon that you might have seen in Bouncing Back, and there's a guy and he's climbing a mountain, and he's looks like he's been climbing for hours, and he's sweating. Even his dog is sweating, and the caption
Yeah, I
is,
saw that.
what you thought what you thought was breaking you is probably making you. So there's purpose in whatever we're going through. That's number one. Number two is happy people, and this is critical, uh, that happy people accept what they can't change. Now, there's a lot of things we can change. We can change our attitude. We can change where we live. We can change our work rate. But there's some things you can't change. So if there's something that you just cannot change, then you move forward by accepting it. And that is the point from which you say, okay, I've got this. Now, what do I do now? So acceptance is key. The third thing we do, and we touched on this, is we look for good things every day. Any situation, we have the habit of saying, what's good about this thing that I didn't want? Okay, so I missed my plane. I got hit with this unexpected expense, but there must be something that I can see that's good in this situation. The next thing is that resilient people focus on just today. They don't allow themselves to get crushed by everything that they might have to do or everything that might go wrong in the next 5 years. They say, I will do my best until bedtime. And that's all we can do. The fifth thing I talk about in bouncing back is when you get knocked down, you just have this philosophy that you say, I will get back up, because what else are you going to do? Am I going to lay here? No. So whatever happens, you say, okay, maybe give me a day or two to recover from this disaster, and then I'm getting back up because I have to do that. The next thing that we notice about happy, effective people, resilient people, is that they set themselves little goals. I want to get here. I want to get there. Because goals give us a sense that we're taking control of our life. If you've ever joined a gymnasium, you know that you feel better just having joined it. You haven't even been yet, but you get this sense that this is me taking control of my life. And so that's why goals are important, not for what we get, but for the people that we become. And then the big one that you'll come across in chapter 7 of Bouncing Back is that we have to have a picture of a better life. That you say to yourself, where am I headed? What am what am I going to be like in 6 months? How am I going to be stronger, happier, more loving, more resilient? What is my plan? And we have a picture of ourselves as living with people we care about, working with people we care about, doing our best. We see ourselves thriving because your life doesn't get better by looking at who you are. Your life gets better by focusing on who you want to be. So that's a quick summary of the 7 points in Bouncing Back.
Amazing. Your life get better by focusing on who you want to be. Oh man, I got that. Okay, Andrew. So to bring this to an end, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those ones who would like to reach out to you, learn more about what you're doing, or make a purchase of the incredible latest book of yours, and they've got some questions. You said so many amazing stuffs, and they have some questions, and they want to reach out to you. How can that be possible?
Okay. Um, my thought would be relationships. We all want to be in loving relationships. We want to get along with the people that we live and work with. Something that I've discovered, Alicia, I'm sure you have too, that when you get a window into the lives of almost anyone you've ever met, you see that the struggles and the heartaches of almost everyone that you've ever come across will break your heart. Some of us grew up being told that we're useless. Some of us grew up being told we're stupid. Some of us still believe we're unlovable. And if we remind ourselves of the heartache and the struggle that most of those people around us have been through, even those people that we know that are really difficult and we think, how can they be like this? Then the question is not why are people so difficult? The question is, how do these people even survive? That that you know, this leads us to a point of more empathy and saying, I don't want to judge people because I haven't been through what they're going through. And the more that I can say, I just want to appreciate that they're doing the best that they know how. This is my boss. This is my stupid brother, who, whatever it is. They're doing the best that they know how with the information they have. And when they know better, they will do better. I think that is a really helpful foundation for how we operate in our relationships. Um, you asked me about how do people connect with me. I have a newsletter that you can sign up for at my website is the same as my name, andrewmatthews.com, www.andrewmatthews.com, two T's in Matthews. You can read about my books there. My books are all on Amazon. Can you buy books on Amazon in, I guess
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
your listeners are in West Africa. Yeah. So, like Being Happy, Bouncing Back, Follow Your Heart, you'll find those all on Amazon in ebooks and also in hard copy. And I welcome you to read a little bit more. I've got more about my philosophies on my website, and um, I make a lot of videos on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, and TikTok. So if you surf the web, you'll see lots of little snippets of interviews like this where I just take two
Okay,
sentences and
lovely.
put it up in a video.
That's a good one. I love that. And most of our streams, I think about 78% of it comes from the United States. So we have more listeners from the States than even in Africa.
Okay.
Okay, Andrew, thank you so very much for honoring the invite. And thank you for sharing this amazing stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you so very much.
Alicia, it's my pleasure. I'm honored to chat with you. Thank you.
That was a beautiful